Today we are going to go through the top 10 fitness myths that need to go into the bin.
Yeah, ketogenic diet does work for some people, but I don't know if you've heard about the ketogenic illness that people...
If you're eating more than 30 grams of protein per meal, you are not metabolizing it, you are storing it as fat.
Bullshit.
No pain, no gain. Is it bullshit? It is bullshit. The reason why is because we don't...
If your scale weight is going down, you must be losing fat. This is very untrue, and I can say...
You burn muscle, okay? There's this big misconception that cardio burns muscle, and it is true to a certain degree, and it's also a lot of bullshit as well. What, the podcast for you that dispels the myths and BS in the fitness industry whilst leveling up your A-game in everyday life. We are your hosts, Nick Finch and Dan King. Guys, welcome back to another episode of You Know What, and today is the top 10 myths...
Just restart.
Welcome back, guys, to another podcast of You Know What. Today we are going to go through the top 10 fitness myths that need to go into the bin.
Yeah, big in the bin or in the sea, whatever you fancy doing with them. What I have is a
not into the sea. That's not environmentally friendly, mate. Bin.
Yes.
Recycling bin.
Sustainable podcast. Right, but I have got a random fact, and I just want to jump in here with this one. So, did you know your sense of smell acts like a time machine?
No, not like that, but I've definitely known that smell can bring back memories of the past much better than anything else can.
True. So if you are sitting in a room, for example, there was a test and a study done on a group of people where they had 10 people sit in a room and they sat them down with the smells of past relatives and said that they sat there and the people could visualize them being with the relatives just based on smell, which is why when people sometimes have weird paranormal activities, they normally smell their dead ancestors first.
Yeah. Or you smell your ex from like 10 years ago and you're like,
where is she? And then you jump in the sea to avoid it. But no, we are going to go through the top 10 fitness myths that you've definitely heard of, and we're going to break them down and tell you why they are or aren't a myth, because some of them could be.
100%.
Yeah, so the first one on the agenda, you should always stretch before a workout because it prevents you getting injured.
Bullshit.
Why is that?
Bullshit. Well, I mean, I honestly say I don't actually stretch before I train. I don't know if you do.
So.
A little bit of mobility, maybe.
It's dynamic mobility, yeah.
If you're injured, maybe you've got to be more careful and maybe you stretch certain muscles to like stabilize yourself out. But no, personally, stretching before a workout doesn't do anything for me, and it's even been proven to decrease the amount of power that you can generate in the workout.
Well, the thing is, for me, for stretching, I just mobilize every morning. So I end up just doing a 10-minute quick mobility every morning, which means I am mobilized before I start the day. Fortunately, what I will say is for our office workers out there, you're probably going to want to mobilise before you train. If you've been sat in this position all day, you're probably going to want to mobilise because you will feel stiff. That is one of the instances. If you are sat in a seated job, definitely mobilise.
Yeah, I agree.
100%.
I worked at a desk job for a while during lockdown, and my knees, my back, my ankles, my shoulders, my eyes, my neck, my wrists, my elbows, everything started hurting.
What did you do for your eyes? Just
eye strain.
Do you like eye rolls?
Yeah, I know. I was like, yeah, fuck. Anyway, eye strain. That's what it happened to my eyes. I was like staring at a screen all day, and my eyes were just bleeding, basically. But that wasn't the major issue. It was the elbows were hurting, and
what,
the knees.
From sitting like this?
Sitting like this for 8 hours, and you'll feel this kind of tension in your knee, almost like it's, I don't know, it's like it's locked in place. You feel like it's going to be stuck there if you don't move it, and it's a horrible feeling, mate.
Yeah, I have. Fortunately, all my jobs have been very active jobs. I don't think I've ever done a seated job ever. Yeah. Like when I'm sitting doing work at home, I'm just a fidget. You see me now. Yeah. I mean, we'll both sit here. We have had like loads of caffeine, but I will be a fidget. But
another myth.
Hit me with it.
Another myth is I don't want to get too big. The amount of clients that come to me and say I don't want to get too big, it just kills me. Man. It's like just try and get too big. Try and do it, and you won't.
You know what the worst thing is? I feel like this is actually more so in females than in men as well, because I'll have ladies come in and they'll start doing some kind of like squatting, or they'll start doing deadlifting, and then they'll do a deadlift set and they'll feel really like pumped because the blood's actually circulating around their body. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna get huge. Oh my god, I'm gonna look like a muscle mummy. I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck's going on? I'm like, no, you have just started to use the muscles properly. You will not suddenly get big from doing one session. Yes, your muscles will pump out, and to be fair, if you have more muscle than you thought you did, it might come as a bit of a shock. But by going to the gym for 6 weeks, you are suddenly not going to become the Incredible Hulk or She-Hulk. Okay, bear in mind it takes a long time to make the progress. I put a post out the other day with this, which is literally a photo of me through the year. It took me a whole year to get that transformation.
Yeah, and some of you are genetically blessed. I'm sure you will just explode over the course of a year and look really good, I mean, that's obviously a great thing to have. If that is the case, then all you do is you decrease the intensity on the exercise of that muscle group that you're worried about getting bigger.
Fitness myth number 3.
Easy.
You ready for this one?
Yeah.
The way to lose fat is to cut out carbs. Now that is absolutely a load of shite. Because as we know, to lose fat is educated around calorie deficit, my friend. And you need to be in a position where your body is needing to expend more energy than what's being put in your body.
Exactly. And the reason why this myth is something that is thrown around is because people that have cut carbs out of their diet have lost water weight, because that's what happens when you lose carbs. You lose water with the carb. Okay, so you lose a lot of weight and you're like, oh, I feel leaner, I look better, but they also feel shit most of the time. Okay, now for the low carb crowd out there, they're obviously going to say, 2 to 3 weeks you're going to feel fine and you just have to get over that hump. But we also look at sustainability, and carbs taste nice, so why would we eliminate an entire macro for the sake of trying to lose some water weight?
I want to throw in there a little bit about the keto diet. Now I've seen a lot of people hyping up the keto diet. Always comes around in January. Now the ketogenic diet does work for some people, but I don't know if you've heard about the ketogenic illness that people get. Is as soon as you go into the state of trying to go between carbs and then go into ketosis, which is when you start to use ketones over carbohydrates, people feel ill in that phase because your body is having to do such a major flip around in what it does to regulate everything. So vitamins, minerals, all that stuff take a hit because they're not being absorbed because the body doesn't know which energy system. So bear in mind, if you are going to try a keto diet out, first 2 weeks, you're most likely going to get a little bit of illness in there.
Yeah. And also, another thing to talk about as well, the reason why carbs get given this bad rap is because of insulin. And insulin, if insulin's high, then apparently you can't, tap into fat stores. And if insulin's low, then you can. Okay, but over the course of a 24-hour period, it doesn't matter, because you will, as long as you're in a calorie deficit, will burn fat. And if you're in a calorie surplus, you will gain potentially fat or muscle.
But what I will say, Layne Norton, just one more point on this, a very key area for me. Layne Norton spoke about this in one of his recent videos, and he turned around and basically said that a lot of the time people aren't losing fat is because you create a carbohydrate buffer. So your carbs are the first thing that's used. So yes, as soon as you start to reduce the carbs, more fat is used, but that's not always the way. So a lot of the time when people are like, oh my God, I've started to lose weight because I cut carbs, I'm like, no, you've just cut down the amount of energy you're consuming from carbohydrates. So then fat is more likely to be used. It's one of those reed flipping areas.
I'll keep, this point's going on forever, but another thing about carbs as well is carbs don't directly get turned into fat very easily, so the body does not prioritize storing them as fat. It stores fat as fat. Now, fat's not bad, by the way, but once again, look at calorie deficit. If you're in a calorie surplus, then obviously you can potentially gain body fat. If you're in a calorie deficit, regardless of whether your carbs are high or your fats are high, you still should lose body fat.
Yeah, well, they did a starvation diet years and years ago. I can continue at this point all day. I'm going to move on from that.
Let's move on. No pain, no gain. Is it bullshit? It is bullshit. The reason why is because we don't necessarily want to just have pain if we want to gain muscle, okay? Because pain means a lot of things. However, we do want to feel some kind of tension in the muscle, and that can be, achieved in a multitude of ways.
Well, I've had clients come in before and say, if I'm not getting sensation out of a session, I haven't done it. I'm like, 90% of the time when I train, the only reason I get sensation now is because I have muscle to have the sensation. If you have not built adequate amounts of muscle, your nerve system will not have adapted to that training session, to that specific movement to give you the stimulus, okay? So if you don't have all the muscle there, like you see is like, for example, I can stand there and do an air bicep curl and I can feel my biceps moving, but for someone who doesn't have many muscles in their bicep, you're going to feel it less because there's less nerve endings to then stimulate the muscle.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, look, pain is just discomfort and there's levels to it. We're not looking at anything that instigates injury. Any sharp pains are bad. Yes, okay, maybe having a little bit of an ache in the muscle, a bit of tension, a bit of a burning feeling is what you're trying to achieve. And without that, you're not potentially going to gain much muscle tissue. Obviously, there's a limit to it. However, we're not looking at just pain for the sake of it.
Myth number 5. This is a very interesting one. You must do crunches to get abs. Not too sure on that one. Everyone goes, if I want to get a six-pack, they start to drop to the floor, and it's literally just the elbows to knees, isn't it? It's elbows to knees, and you start seeing them be, if I do 100 crunches a day, I'll get abs. I'm like, it's not quite how it works. But it does bring up a very interesting point. You need to train your abs, but you need to train all the sections of the abs, much like you train all the lower part of the body. It works in the same way.
Exactly, and obviously there's also another part to this, and that's the diet side of things. If you just train the abs and you don't have any, fat loss around the area, then obviously you're not going to be able to see them because they're largely dependent on how much body fat you have in the way.
Very true. Apologies for interrupting the podcast today. Thank you so much for tuning in to You Know What. We really appreciate you listening, subscribing, liking and reviewing everything that we're doing. It's so nice to see so many of you interacting with our podcast as it grows. If you didn't already know, me and Nick have one of the fastest growing online coaching platforms on the planet, and we'd love to get you involved. We're looking for ambitious people looking to grow their careers and grow their experience in health and fitness. Me and Nick have over 10 years of working experience in the fitness industry, and we'd love to help you achieve the results that you've always wanted. Make sure to contact either Coach Dan King or Get Fit by Nick, or even just check the link in our bio to the podcast now. We'd love to hear from you.
What is this? When you run, you burn muscle, okay? There's this big misconception that cardio burns muscle, and it is a degree, and it's also a lot of bullshit. Too soon and you do too much, you can tap into your muscle stores to some degree because your body does start breaking down amino acids, okay?
Well, this comes down to as well energy expenditure. If you start to expend more energy through cardio output, then you are going to start to break down muscle because your body will not have adequate fuel. So for example, let's say someone's on a really aggressive weight loss diet, their maintenance calories is 2,000, they drop it to 1,000, and then they're doing, say, an hour of cardio a day. You will start to burn muscle, not specifically from the cardio, but because you have expended more energy throughout the day, so it needs to tap into the protein that's in the muscle, and then what you may end up finding is
also there's pathways in the body. Your brain's going to be thinking, why are you doing so much cardio when you're trying to build muscle? Oh, right, let's switch off some pathways to anabolic growth in the muscle.
Yeah.
So then the body can actually divert some of the resources that would have gone into the muscle into other areas. So yes, there is a potential chance that you could prevent muscle growth at the weight you want, or even potentially lose a bit of muscle, but it's completely dependent on how large of a deficit you're in, how little protein you're taking into the body, and how much cardio you're doing too soon.
Bang on. Now, myth number 7, working out in the morning, superior to our evening workers there. Hands down, morning's better, isn't it? Just because you're getting in, you're training, you're getting done, you feel better. No, you train what works in with your schedule. Just because you're going in morning or evening, your body doesn't really care, to be totally honest. It only cares about the work you're putting in during the session. If you go in the morning and you feel more motivated and your intensity's higher, you put better effort into the session, you will probably see better results than the evening. But if you're better at working for a full day, then putting the intensity in your training afterwards, you'll probably see better results in the evening.
Yeah, 100%. And there's actually been some proof to show that potentially endurance is higher in the mornings and strength's higher in the evening. So if you're someone that's training in the morning, you might find cardio feels easier in the morning, or maybe a circuit training. But if you're trying to improve your strength, you might find having that course of the day to actually warm your muscles up, you might find strength training to be easier in the afternoon.
And it's also as well, you would have fed more for strength training, because sometimes strength training can consume more calories in a shorter burst of time than what endurance training can do.
But obviously largely it comes down to what you're used to.
Yeah. 100%. Just get something that you adhere to.
We also have abs are made in the kitchen. Now, obviously we talked about the crunches for revealing your abs, but another bullshit myth is abs are revealed in the kitchen, because it doesn't just come down to diet. You do need to train the muscle to actually expose it. As well, you do need to also have the diet. So thinking that abs are only made in the kitchen is the worst way to look at it. You want both. You want to make sure you're training your abs. You want to make sure that you're also eating enough that you're burning fat and showing your abs in the first place.
I can tell you right now, no one that's ever built a really great core has not done core exercises.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, anyone you see on social media, they have done core. I do core myself, but I do core exercise I enjoy. I don't just sit there doing 100 crunches a day.
Yeah, exactly. And also, if you do build strong abs, and I call them sausage abs. If you build sausage abs, right, what will happen is you'll actually see your abs poke through your body fat level if you're low enough, and you can actually be a higher level of body fat and still have abs.
Interesting.
Which is great.
Very interesting.
So get some sausage abs.
Get some sausage abs. Now, number 9 and the penultimate one. If your scale weight is going down, you must be losing fat. This is very untrue, and I can say this literally from this year. There is a little post that I've got on my Instagram where you'll see my weight drastically drop. Now, everyone will be like, oh my God, Dan, you just lost 4 kilos. That must be amazing. You lost 4 kilos of fat. No, I've lost muscle as well during that. Any giant drop off in weight normally indicates you've lost muscle too, and water, and also fat at the same time.
Yep.
But we can't distinguish what it is unless we cut you open.
Exactly. And when we say we lose muscle, we don't always mean actually lose the muscle tissue itself. We talk about losing the glycogen in the muscle, which deflates it. Any client that has gone away for the holidays and they come back after doing strength training for a year and they see their weight go down, not up, and they're like, oh, I've actually lost weight. Well, how? And it's normally because of the glycogen. You haven't weight trained, the muscles haven't had the same stimulus, they lose carbohydrates to the body, and then the body decreases size in the muscle by losing water in the muscle. There we go. Lastly, if you're eating... Sorry. Wait, what? Oh, sorry, yeah, this is what we had. If you're eating more than 30 grams of protein per meal, you are not metabolizing it, you are storing it as fat.
Bullshit.
This is the worst one, man, because the ironic thing about this is this idea or theory about eating 30 grams of protein every hour or per meal is because of the protein shake industry. Like years and years and years ago, selling this myth that you need 30 grams scoop of protein in order to maintain and build muscle tissue. Any more than that, you don't metabolize it and it's stored as fat and it's not used.
It's silly. Your body doesn't know. There is no threshold in your body. Yes, there has been some studies showing the utilization after training. Normally, after you train, you will see the most amount of protein utilized. But that doesn't mean you have an anabolic window where you need to consume all your protein within 2 hours.
Yeah.
You need to space it out throughout the day. And actually, it's been proven that consuming adequate amounts of protein in sequence spells throughout the day, so for example, have like 5 protein-rich meals or snacks throughout the day, is better than loading it into a 3-hour window.
If you think this is bullshit, ask any carnivore or ancient tribes or anything like that. Whenever they finally have this big, chance for a big protein meal, and they're like, oh, they're cutting it into 30-gram portions and leaving the rest for another day. Like, it's bullshit. It's all bullshit. Your body will absorb everything you give it to some degree. So it's bullshit.
It's so silly. Well, thank you guys for watching the podcast. What we would like to say is make sure if you have any myths in the comments below, please drop them below and we can answer them in other podcasts later down the line. We really appreciate your support. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, and make sure to share the podcast about. Every like pushes the podcast out to new viewers, and we love the new people that come onto the channel. Make sure if you're on Spotify to give us a little cheeky review. All you've got to do is just tap the stars. You don't even need to leave a comment, just tap the stars. But yeah, we will catch you on the next pod. Catch you
Ciao, ciao.
later.